Welcome to Type C Tech Reviews. Today we're going to be doing a review of the Acer Predator XB283K. But if at any point during the video you want to check out this exact same monitor, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. But let's jump into the video. Okay, now right off the bat, this is a 28-inch, so not a 27, but slightly bigger than that, 28-inch 3840 by 2160 aka 4K gaming monitor. Now the first thing to talk about is the PPI, or pixels per inch, essentially how crisp and clear the image of the monitor is actually gonna be to your eye. Now this on this monitor is incredibly good. The PPI on this monitor is a whopping about 157 PPI. Now this means the image is incredibly clear. It's just about as crisp as you can get. Now from a typical viewing distance, you cannot see any pixelation even with very small text. There's no pixelation. Everything is very, very clear, which is great. Now, I personally prefer a 32-inch screen size with a 4K resolution because even though this is incredibly crisp and clear, I think the difference between a 32-inch 4K and a 27 or 28-inch 4K is very minimal. The image quality, as far as how crisp and clear it is basically the same to your eye. You're not really gonna notice a big difference going to a 32 versus a 27 or 28-inch. So I prefer a 32-inch screen size. However, the big thing with this monitor is it's a really good price. And we're gonna talk about the value throughout the video and especially at the end, but the majority of the market also prefers 27 or 28-inch monitors, so that might be who you are. So if you like the 27-inch monitor, this one is great and it's very crisp. Now for the panel type, this is an IPS panel. They have this agile splendor stuff. It's just marketing, meaning that it's a fast panel. There's a million different variations of IPS panels. Not quite a million, but you get the point. Now I do have to say, I prefer a 32-inch screen size versus a 27 or 28-inch screen size. However, I really freaking enjoyed gaming on this monitor. And for the price, it is a really good monitor. It would actually make me consider getting one of these over a 32-inch, the M32U, the Gigabyte one that I recommended, which is an absolutely fantastic monitor. I think I prefer that one overall more than this one, but this one brings it hard, especially if you are on a budget, kind of. Now refresh rate and variable refresh rate. This hits 144 Hertz, which is a nice smooth refresh rate. However, for variable refresh rate, this has FreeSync Premium. Doesn't have G-Sync compatibility as far as NVIDIA certified G-Sync compatibility. However, it does work with G-Sync and it works quite well. I didn't have any problems at all with G-Sync, but it isn't an NVIDIA certified and it isn't a G-Sync monitor, but it does work with G-Sync. And during testing and gaming, I had absolutely no screen tearing at all, which we do expect because this is still a fairly expensive monitor. Now the brightness is actually quite good here. It's better than I expected. Firstly, this has an advertised brightness with HDR 400, which basically is just 400 nits. That's what that means. They don't really give a nittage for like its typical brightness. They don't advertise that openly. However, the SDR typical brightness after I tested it hit about 360 nits, which is a nice, vibrant, pretty amount of brightness for this panel, especially in a darker room. I would say if you're in a really bright room, I personally, you don't need to. It's not like it's not gonna be bright enough in a very bright room. However, because the image quality is already so good, I want to turn off those lights. I feel like I wanna turn off those lights when I'm gaming, doing stuff like office, workflow type tasks. It's fine with all the lights on, so it's a good enough brightness to keep away all of that stuff, and actually most typical office monitors are 300 nits. However, when I'm gaming, I want the absolute best picture quality possible, so I typically have a dimmer style room when I'm gaming. Now, I typically like over 400 nits in SDR for my main monitors, because I absolutely just love super bright monitors. However, this monitor actually gets quite bright, and that is with its HDR. The HDR performance was incredibly surprising because I wasn't expecting much from this, honestly, but it was very surprising, hitting a whopping 540 nits of brightness in HDR. This is almost a 200 nit difference between SDR and HDR. So when you turn this thing on HDR, it is much brighter, okay? This thing gets very bright. So the cool thing is if you do feel like you want more brightness, maybe you're in a brighter room, maybe you want to do some HDR gaming, want to watch a movie in HDR, you can absolutely do this. Now, it doesn't have the widest color gamut ever, so it's not gonna be the best, most amazing HDR cinematic experience that is for enthusiasts that want like this amazing HDR experience. Don't expect that, but expect higher brightness, better vibrancy, stuff like that. To the average consumer, even the average consumer that's gonna be buying this monitor, the HDR experience will be fantastic, especially for gaming if you want a much higher brightness. So this is something that I used and was kind of blown away by. I mean, this really adds a ton of value for me. However, there is one bad thing with the brightness, and it's not really bad, it's just stupid. Now, in SDR, to make this hit its max brightness, you would think, okay, I'm gonna go into the menu system, I'm gonna turn the brightness up to 100%. Well, if you do that, this thing will hit about 160 nits. And yes, you heard that right, 160 nits. And if you don't know nittage, that's dim as heck. That's dimmer than basically every monitor that you've ever seen. It's very dim. So you literally have to go through the menu system and enable this thing called max brightness. And it's an on switch, and even in 100% brightness without the max brightness, it only goes up to like 160 nits, and then after that, it'll go up to that 360. Weird. The other thing is it's hidden. So it's actually in the first menu, which I think is like picture quality. Then you scroll all the way down and it's on another hidden page. It's the second page and it's the only thing there. This is weird, and it should be right next to the brightness, because a lot of people are gonna get this in the mail and it's not gonna be on, and they're gonna be like, what the heck? That's just bad planning. So yeah, that's dumb, but let's move on to colors. Now these are actually pretty good, all things considered. Now this covers 90% of the DCI-P3 color gamut, which is good, but it's nothing groundbreaking. The cool thing is this comes pre-calibrated well, I will say it comes pre-calibrated well for accuracy out of the box. So if you wanna do some light photo, video editing stuff that you need more color accuracy for, this is great. We've seen a lot of these 4K monitors being pre-calibrated from the factory and doing it well. So this is something that is really cool, especially because I know a lot of you guys may use this as an Xbox Series X, a PS5, then you got your PC, and then maybe you got your MacBook. There's a lot of people that are buying these monitors that are creatives, but they also love the game, like me. This is a monitor where you can do that on, which is cool. Now, would the LG 27GP950 be better? Yes, absolutely it would be, but that monitor is $900, and it's also out of stock a lot, and it's harder to find. This one is quite a bit less expensive, and overall, I would probably choose this one over that one for the price difference. Now, the other thing is this manages to output 10 bits of color at full 144 Hertz, which is fantastic and great. As for the contrast ratio, this is pretty typical for IPS panels at 1,000:1. As for backlight bleed, my unit had absolutely none. And I do also want to mention, I bought this monitor. I'm not working with Acer, so they didn't do like a special check before sending it to me. So my unit had none. If it did have some, I would have set it and then sent it back and then got a replacement. But it didn't happen. I also have no idea how good Acer's quality control is. I've used a couple monitors, but not to the scale that I've used something like LG or Dell's or Scepter's monitors, which I have used literally tons of them, so I know their quality control pretty well. I have no idea how Acer's is, so definitely check that if you get it. Okay, response time, ghosting, and input lag. This is probably the best section always with these 4K gaming monitors. Okay, so first of all, the response time. Pixel response time is low at 1 millisecond, gray to gray. How does that translate into ghosting? Well, as you would probably expect, it is very good. This thing is incredibly fast. So the ghosting is very, very, very low. Basically crystal clear, not quite as fast as the Gigabyte M32U. I don't know about the M27 or is it M28U, which is basically the direct competitor for this one. I'm not sure how that one compares. I've only used the M32U, but I will say this one is just a tad behind. However, you would never notice it. It's basically the same. It is so freaking fast. You can see on the images right here, this is the ghosting. There is a tiny amount. However, in game, this thing is crystal clear. You do not notice any ghosting. And if you're a fast-paced gamer, if you just love the best possible picture quality, this is absolutely stunning. Now, as far as input lag, this is very fast. We do kind of expect that, but you'd never have any idea until you get monitors. I've had monitors that have had higher input lags than I was expecting before, and this one, quite low. Gaming on this thing's absolutely fantastic. You match the very low ghosting, the incredibly beautiful resolution, and then a low input lag, and it's just a beautiful, really enjoyable gaming experience. But that's pretty much true with all of these. The M32U was amazing. This one is amazing. Most of these 4K monitors are just nice panels. Most of these panels are actually the exact same panel. So I think this is the same panel as the Gigabytes panel, as well as I think ViewSonic has one. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but these are all the same panels. If you see a 28-inch 4K, 144 hertz monitor, they're all gonna be the same panel. So they will be done differently. The ghosting may be different. A lot of stuff may be different. They might put a different backlight. There's a lot of differences there can be, but the panel overall is the same, but the monitor still could be very different. Just wanna put that out there. But yeah, overall, the gaming experience is absolutely stunning. I did quite a bit of gaming on this monitor. So yeah. Okay, but now the menu system and controls. Acer has an imperfect menu system. Now, firstly, they use a dedicated power button, which I always love. You know that I've talked about that in my other videos. I love it because it's easy to turn on and off your monitor. However, they located it with all of the other menu system controls, and the button for the power is exactly the same as the other buttons. The only difference is that it's slightly higher on the monitor. So one, it's in a bad placement because all of those menu system controls are on the back right side. That's always the worst place to put them. You don't really know exactly where. You have to feel around to click it. So it makes the conveniency of having a dedicated power button gone. It just diminishes it. So that was stupid. Now the rest of the menu system, like I said, is located on that back right side. So there are 3 buttons that are exactly the same as the power button. And then there is a joystick. Now you don't need any other buttons. You just need a joystick. If you're adding a joystick and then those buttons, you have a bad menu system. It doesn't work better, it works worse. I don't know why companies are still doing this. The joystick works great. However, the menu system forces you to use those other buttons, which is just ridiculous. So there is definitely a learning curve to it. For the menu system itself, it's very basic. It's pixelated, even though this is a high resolution monitor. It's just like the actual menu system itself is like uses a pixelated type thing. It's bad. It's not intuitive, and there's definitely a slight learning curve to it. Some settings are not as easy as they should be, and they're not accessible. Like the max brightness should be right at the top next to the brightness. It's not there. It's on a second page. So there's a lot of weird stuff. It's overall a bad menu system. However, it's definitely not the worst that I've used, which was that Inosin menu system, which was awful. So overall, I would say if this is an average menu system, it's over here. LG's is way over here. It's the best one that you can get ever, but you've heard me say that a million times. Let's move on to Vesa Compatibility, and this is compatible with 100mm by 100mm Vesa mounts, and I believe they have the screws in the back. Don't quote me on that. Now for the internal speakers, this does have internal speaker. They are dual 2-watt speakers. They don't get super loud. They are pretty muffled, but they're not terrible. They're just about average for monitor speakers, meaning that they'll work in a pinch if you need to listen to like a YouTube tutorial, something like that. Now for the ports, they actually do this quite well. This has 2 HDMI 2.1s, a DisplayPort 1.4, a USB Type-C with 65 watts of charging, a USB Type-B, and then 4 USB Type-A's. Very, very good considering the price point. Now I do want to say for the HDMIs, this does support all of the new consoles, PS5, Xbox Series X and S at full 4K, 120 hertz, and you can do all of the 1440p, 1080p, and 4K with all of the Xboxes, and with the PS5, you can do 1080p or 4K at full 120 hertz. So all of them work perfectly. This is great. This is a fantastic monitor if you want to pair it with an Xbox Series X, a PS5, or an Xbox Series S, although I'd recommend a 1440p for the Series S. However, this is a great monitor. If you are looking for a monitor that you can do your work on, maybe on your laptop, on a MacBook Pro, because it has the USB-C, and then you want to also game on your Xbox or your PlayStation, this is a great monitor to do it at a really good price point. Now note, the USB ports, the 2 USB Type-A's are on the backside with all of the rest of the ports. Then there are 2 USB Type-A ports on the left side, on literally the side, sticking out this way. Now, Dell has done this, making their USB ports more accessible, and they've done this on the bottom chin on that left side. That's what I prefer over the right side, because if you want to charge something, there's a cable sticking out the side of the monitor, whereas Dell's it's sticking down. It's just a little bit cleaner. However, doesn't really matter. I use these all the time. I use wireless headsets a lot, and I use this to charge it. One of the good things that this monitor does is that you do not need an upstream USB Type-B or the USB Type-C to produce power. So you can actually use those USB Type-A's without any other connections connected to it, because it actually supplies power to those USB Type-A's through the power supply. So that is really good. If that didn't make sense, it just means that the USB Type-A's work and they're powered even without you plugging in a USB Type-C or a USB Type-B, which is not true with basically every LG monitor except their workflow stuff, which is super dumb, and I don't want to still do that. It's very weird. All right, but stand and build quality. It's good, but it's a little bit weird, but it's good. All right, the stand has a ton of adjustability, which is great. It has height adjustability. It has tilt adjustability. It has swivel adjustability, and then it has rotation and a little note with the rotation. Most monitors, when they rotate, they only go one way. This one, you can rotate it to the left or you can rotate it to the right. So that is very cool. If you want to do a dual monitor or like a triple monitor setup with one in the middle and then two vertical, you can have them facing opposite directions to make them symmetrical, which is very cool. Now the stand itself looks great from the front. I think it's a really good looking monitor when you're actually sitting at the monitor. Like the actual front of it looks nice. The only thing is it has this weird massive chin. It sticks out really far. I don't know why, but I'm cool with it. It's a good design. The cool thing is the stand is designed well for cable management because you cannot see the cables when this thing's cable managed. It's one of the easiest monitors that I've used to cable manage, and that is really good. But from the back of this thing, it just looks weird. Honestly, it looks like a developer for Fortnite designed the back of this thing. It literally looks cartoony. It looks weird. The stand looks like a, I don't know, like a baton. It's very strange. It looks kind of childish from the back. From the front, it looks great. From the back, it looks weird. So that's probably the only weird thing about it. There's nothing wrong with it, and everything feels high quality and durable and like other name brand brands out there, like Dell and LG and all of those. And it's a very solid monitor overall. It just looks kind of funny and weird. And one more thing I actually forgot to talk about. One of the cool actual features of this monitor is it has sensors. Now it has the ambient light shifting. I hate that. I think it's awful. But the cool thing is that it has this thing called proxy sense. And basically what this does is if you're not using the monitor for a amount of time, it will turn off the monitor in two stages like your phone would first dim the display and then turn off. But if you then sit back down in front of the monitor, it will turn the monitor back on. This isn't the PC or your computer turning off, but it's actually the monitor itself. Now, this is really cool in a few use case scenarios. One, it's awesome because when you sit in front of the monitor, pretty immediately it turns back on. The downside to this is if you're watching Netflix or videos, the monitor will turn off because it doesn't understand that you're still using it. So you have to actively be doing stuff on the monitor for it to understand that. But the proxy sense could be good for a few use case scenarios if you are doing workflow type stuff where you have to constantly get up and sit back down and you're doing this multiple times throughout the day. It might be nice to just turn on the proxy sense and then when you're maybe watching a movie on it or gaming on it, turn it back off. But I think it's a cool feature and it's kind of gimmicky, but it's actually kind of cool and I like it. So yeah. All right, price and value. This is a big section for this monitor. This monitor comes in at $630, which is a very good price for a high refresh rate 4K monitor. That is a really good price. When we first started seeing these come into the game, most of them were $1,000 plus, and then LG had theirs at $900. That's still a lot of money to get into 4K high refresh rate gaming. But this one coming in at $630, almost 1/3 of the price of that LG monitor. This is basically the perfect monitor considering the price tag. And I think it gives you a lot of value, probably the most amount of value if you like a 27 or 28 inch screen size in this 4K high refresh rate space. I personally prefer a 32 inch 4K screen size, but if you don't, and if you prefer a 27 or a 28, or you wanna save money, this is a ton of value here. This is giving you one of the cheapest 4K high refresh rate gaming monitors without compromising on brightness, ghosting, input lag, and color accuracy. If that all sounds good to you, this may be the right monitor for you. So overall, do I recommend this monitor? Well, if you want a 4K high refresh rate gaming monitor with low input lag and ghosting, and you want one of the best values in the industry, then absolutely yes, I recommend this. Again, if you want to check it out, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. If you want a bigger screen size, if you do want a 32 inch screen size, I recommend the Gigabyte M32U. I think that's the best one right now for that screen size for value, although this one's much less expensive, which is a big deal. So you can check that video out. It'll already be right here. It's already been there for a while. So Gigabyte M32U if you want a 32 inch screen size. If you want a 27 or 28, this one's fantastic. But this is Type C Tech Reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next video.